Hello, my name is Mariah Harnish, and I'm going to be presenting on echoic memory today. So let's get right into it. So echoic memory is part of sensory memory. Along with iconic, echoic memory constitutes the earliest stages of perception, and iconic refers to visual perception, and echoic refers to auditory perception. So that's what we'll be addressing. Early research in regards to echoic memory addressed three facets: persistence, which is your ability to remember something; decay, which is how quickly this stimuli disappeared from essentially what is the sensory buffer that several other researchers spoke of; and then report, which is your ability to recall and report the stimuli that you have encountered. And there was some really important research that was done into this that was used to illustrate these concepts and establish their existence. The first one, persistence, was addressed by a man named Ephron in 1970, and I'll get into what his experiment was in a second, but essentially it illustrated the existence of subjective apparent duration. So before I tell you what that is, I'll tell you a little bit more about his experiment. Ephron, what he did was he presented a series of tones to his subjects, and he asked them to basically press a button that would turn a light on at the point when they believed the tone had finished sounding. And what he found was that regardless of whether the tone lasted for 40 milliseconds or for 80 milliseconds or for 120 milliseconds, it had the subjective apparent duration of average of 130 milliseconds. So this is similar to what occurred with iconic memory. It kind of puts a cap on our ability to perceive, but that was important in establishing the concept of persistence. The second experiments that were done to establish the concept of trace decay were done by Glucksberg and Cohen in 1970s. And once again, before I get into exactly what they did, they found that a 5-second retention for unattended stimuli was established. And the way that they did this was they basically presented their participants with a sentence or paragraph of information in one ear, and then at the same time in the other ear they presented the same thing, but they were instructed to ignore that. Now, it wasn't exactly the same sentence, so you're dealing with some interference here. So they were instructed to ignore that, and then while this was all going on, two different things in two different ears, a green light would appear intermittently, and then it would signal the subject to basically say that a digit or a sound had appeared in the unattended ear. And so this basically served to illustrate that there was a retention, as I said before, of 5 seconds, and that was a broad construct that extended over all of their research, that's how long unattended stimuli can stay in the queue of the sensory buffer we discussed before without expiring. And then now we come to report. Three men, Darwin, Turvey, and Crowder, in 1972, did an experiment to illustrate how report is affected by our perception and our abilities to perceive auditorily. What they did was they would have 3 digits, basically a number or a letter, and they played 3 lists of these. So you have like a 7, a C, and a 6 playing in one ear. And then you have a 6, a 2, and a B playing in the other ear. And then one is played in both ears. And what they found was that, and this total time for this was 1 second. This was presented pretty quickly. But what they have found was that partial report was strongly affected by recency. So how recently you've heard it is going to directly affect how your ability to basically report it back accurately. And then partial report was moderately affected by primacy. So that would be what you hear first. And your ability to report that is influenced by that aspect. And then there were some findings that came out of this. They found out that echoic memory lasts longer than iconic memory. Once this research was done and we contrasted it with iconic, we found that it was 4 seconds versus 1 second for echoic versus iconic, but echoic memory preserved less information, 4 to 5 items versus 8 to 9 with iconic. And then, so here is, my video does not allow playback. Okay, well, I'm basically, this was a video to basically illustrate the recency effect. So what someone had done that I found on YouTube is this girl had two groups of people, Group A and Group B, and she played a song to them, and she had them listen to the song for a minute, and then she had one group immediately repeat it back as much as they could remember, and then she had Group B had a minute delay. And the group that had the minute delay, as it turns out, they didn't report it back as accurately. So basically what it says up there, this video was supposed to illustrate the strength of recency and its effect on echoic memory. And that is my presentation over echoic memory. I hope that the recency of this presentation maybe helps you on some quizzes over this chapter. And so yeah, that's it. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.